Famous finance guru Cathie Wood recently doubled down on her statement that Bitcoin is headed to the moon. She claims that BTC will hit $1 million by 2030. Is her prediction out of this world? Let's see for ourselves.
Speaking of big ideas, and I love when we talk about this because everybody on Twitter has a comment, but you stick to your $1 million Bitcoin forecast, despite what we saw, I think about a 65% drop in it last year. People are saying to me, really? Does she really stick to this? Why the confidence in that, despite everything?
Well, the confidence actually was strengthened last year. Now, last year was a terrible year for everything crypto. But if you think about what happened, it was the centralized, opaque players who went bankrupt: FTX, Celsius, 3 Arrows Capital. And what did we see from Bitcoin? Bitcoin is completely decentralized and transparent. It started because of 0809, the lack of transparency in the traditional financial services ecosystem. And I remember when we did our research, and Art Laffer, I mentioned him the first time he was on your show. Yep. He took us through what Bitcoin meant to him, and it was, wow, Art. This is a rules-based it's a rules-based digital monetary system, and it's global, and there's no human intervention. It's very disciplined. It's mathematically metered to top out at 21 million units. Well, in the last 3 years, the responses to COVID, the fiscal and monetary responses that, in many countries are causing hyperinflation and, fiscal crises. We're seeing protests and riots all over the place. Well, where do these people go for an insurance policy against an implosion in their purchasing power and wealth? It is in something like Bitcoin. Bitcoin is an insurance policy, and it is an insurance policy for everyone against confiscation of wealth.
While we're still licking our wounds from the 2022 bummer, how easily can we crawl back onto the Bitcoin wagon all over again?
Cathie, I want to switch gears and ask you about one of the other predictions in the report, and that has to do with Bitcoin. And of course, this has gotten a lot of attention, as many of your predictions do, that you guys are still looking for $1 million or more in Bitcoin value going out to 2030. As I said, this is a controversial take after the drubbing and then some that we have seen in Bitcoin. Walk me through it here. How do we get from here to there?
Yes, and you can see the building blocks in Big Ideas 2023. But if you and the assumptions you'll see are very conservative. In fact, we've dialed them down. From just take institutional managers looking at Bitcoin as a new asset class, and they are. We've seen Coinbase and BlackRock hook up recently. It's because institutional investors want access to this new asset class, which the returns of which, the correlation of the returns are low, which is exactly what they're looking for. Let me just step back and just say, last year was a disaster for crypto generally. However, if you look at the Bitcoin blockchain, it did not skip a beat. No transaction was interrupted. It did what we thought it was going to do. And it is no surprise to us that Sam Bankman-Fried did not like Bitcoin. Why? It's completely decentralized and completely transparent. And he couldn't control it. His firm, FTX, was completely centralized and opaque. So we think that as investors reflect on what happened last year, the failures were those companies that were not decentralized, were not transparent. Bitcoin didn't skip a beat. And if you watch what's going on, especially in emerging markets, there's hyperinflation all over the world as their currencies have fallen apart. and as their fiscal and monetary responses to COVID are now proving in some cases to be disastrous. Those individuals, those populations need a fallback, an insurance policy like Bitcoin, as do high net worth individuals who are worried that their wealth will be confiscated. Inflation is confiscation of wealth, but then there's outright confiscation, and I'm sure that there are individuals in the troubled spots of the world, the Russias, the controversies in China, who are looking for that fallback in case something really wrong happens to them in these countries. There are tycoons who understand what their risks are. So we believe that in insurance policies, that Bitcoin is probably the best insurance policy. Just keep that key in your head, and at some point you'll be able to cross a border and reclaim your wealth.
So are you ready to hear that sweet jingle of fresh Bitcoin in your pocket, or is Cathie full of it?
Yeah, exactly, Akiko. Even as the fall of FTX rocks crypto world, Cathie Wood appears to be unfazed when it comes to her conviction in crypto. The ARK Invest founder and CEO said yesterday in an interview with Bloomberg that she is sticking by her Bitcoin price target of $1 million per token by 2030. This comes as many in the crypto space raise concerns about the full contagion effect of the FTX collapse, effects that could take weeks, months, maybe even years to play out. Many have also sounded the alarm on faltering trust in crypto as well. Bitcoin now trading around the 16,000 range, far below ARK's big $1 million bet. Wood is also putting her money where her mouth is, snapping up Grayscale's heavily discounted Bitcoin fund and shares of crypto exchange Coinbase across ARK's funds. She is a big Coinbase bull too. ARK is the fourth largest shareholder of the company. And even as Coinbase asserts that it is an SEC regulated company that does not have direct exposure to FTX, it has been feeling the ripple effects and taking a huge hit. Wood's assertions about crypto also come as her ARK Invest fund is down more than 60% year to date. Now, Akiko, ARK does consistently point to the 5-year, the 10-year time horizon, but worth noting that investors in her fund are sitting on massive losses right now because of these lofty bets. One of the big reasons that ARK has largely maintained its investor base and even attracted new inflows despite its drawdown is that Wood has massive conviction in what she does. It has been a strong selling point for ARK. So when Wood says that Bitcoin will hit $1 million less than a decade from now, that does carry a lot of weight for the retail investors, the investors who are listening to her and, perhaps interested in making this incredibly volatile bet.
Well, Alexander, to your point, worth taking this with a skeptical eye given her fund performance. What do we know about her past calls on Bitcoin and how much of those calls have actually materialized?
Well, Coinbase is a good example. She purchased shares of Coinbase when it was trading around $200, and now it is down. She's sitting on those losses and still buying even more of that stock. She's made very lofty calls on Tesla, on Roku, stocks that are down more than 70% year to date. So really worth, approaching this call on Bitcoin with skepticism. As I said, trading around the 16,000 range, and she is betting that within 10 years, it'll be at $1 million.
Thanks for watching, y'all, and we'll see you next time.